One of the touchstones of the day for an Orthodox Jew is the 3 times a day that he davens. Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv. Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv. And this repeats itself day after day. Periodically there's a Musaf. On Yom Kippur there's an Ne'ilah. But the frequency of the day, the entire cycle of the day, revolves around getting up for Shachris, making sure you have a minyan for Mincha in the afternoon, the evening, and at night going to Ma'ariv. Or at home, davening Shachris, during the course of a busy afternoon, davening Mincha, and at the end, if one does, daven Ma'ariv. And the question is, where is the source for this, and why is there such a cycle of the day? So, in the Gemara in Brachos, on Daf Chafam with Beis, there are 2 opinions. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina Amar. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina said, Avos, Tfilos Avos Tiknum. The Tfilos were organized by the Avos. The Avos were the ones who initiated the Tfilah. Avraham Avinu initiated Shachris. Vayashkem Avram Baboker. He got up in the morning. Yitzchak is attacking Mincha. Vayetze Yitzchak Lasuach Basodeh. Yitzchak goes to speak to Hashem in the field, L'eis Erev, in the evening. And Yaakov davens Ma'ariv, Vayivka b'mokom v'yolin sham kivo Hashemesh. Yaakov davens Ma'ariv. Yaakov comes to the place of the Beis Hamikdash, and he Vayivka. Vayivka is one of the Lashonos, one of the different languages, one of the different words that are used to describe Tefillah. And therefore it says, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina in the Gemara, that the Tfilos were instituted by the Avos. Rabbi Shua ben Levi has a different approach. He says the tfilos, the 3 tfilos, are parallel to the korbanos that are brought in the Beis Hamikdash. Tefillah, in a sense, is a substitute, is a parallel to the korbanos brought in the Beis Hamikdash. As we say in the Shalma Paras Hoseinu, let the korbanos that we cannot bring be replaced by the words, the lips of our tefillah. And therefore, in the morning there was a korban tamid. In the evening, there was the Tamid Shel Bein Ha'arbayim. There was the Tamid of the morning, the Tamid of the afternoon. And then at night, there was Hekter, Chalavim, Ve'evarim. In the evening, all the Karbanos that were unable to be brought during the day, they stacked them at the top of the Mizbeach after they shechted them and sprinkled the blood. If they didn't get a chance to bring up all the different parts of the animal during the course of the entire night, they were placed on the Mizbeach, and they burnt there on the Mizbeach. So therefore, the Tfilos are connected those 3 acts of the public karbanos, the public sacrifices brought in the Mishkan of the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore we have 3 Tfilos. So the framework, the structure of the 3 Tfilos is made up of these 2 parallel ideas, which are not contradictory, they don't disagree with each other, they are complementary. They complete each other. But what exactly are we supposed to understand from this? How can we take this to a different level and understand it in a different way? So I'd like to discuss 2 ideas. One is found in the Sfas Emes, in Parshas Vayeshev, where the Sfas Emes writes the following. He says, Uvimei HaMaaseh, on the days of activity, the Yimei Chol, the weekdays. So a person has to struggle with different ideas. The difference between Yimei Chol and Yimei Shabbos, in the structure of the Sfas Emes and many others, is not just that during the week we're allowed to perform malacha, and on Shabbos we have to refrain from malacha. They're 2 completely different kinds of days. And the avodah, the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on these days is different. One way of expressing this is in the following illustration. Imagine we have a Beis Hamikdash finally. And the Beis Hamikdash is the place where you serve Hashem. It's the place of the highest level of Kedusha, of holiness. And that's where we go to serve Hashem. If we think about the week, the highlight of the week in terms of service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be Shabbos. So therefore, what would one expect Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash to be like? Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash, the holiest day of the week, in the holiest place, it should be a hubbub of activity. People coming, bringing korbanos, sacrificing. That should be what there is in the Beis Hamikdash. However, it's exactly the opposite. On Shabbos, one brings very few korbanos. One brings the regular, everyday korban tamid. One brings the special musaf for Shabbos, which is actually quite small. It's only 2 korbanos. And the lechem aponim, the bread on the special table in the Beis Hamikdash, is brought, actually the levona, the incense is burnt, and it's divided among the Kohanim. And that's all. And the rest of the day, the Beis Hamikdash is quiet. Compare and contrast that with the regular day during the week. People come, they bring korbanos. Person who wants to come close to Hashem brings a korban olah. Person who wants to be thankful to Hashem, to recognize the good that Hashem did him, he brings a korban shlomim, a korban todah. One who had done a sin brings a chatos, brings an asham. If one was a nazir, if one was a mitzorah, if a woman gave birth, in terms of rectification of certain kinds of impurity. And these people all bring their korbanos. The Beis Mikdash is a hubbub of activity. People come in, coming out, bringing their korbanos, eating their korbanos, cooking their korbanos, doing all of the different avodah of the Beis Hamikdash. But that's a regular day of the week. And says the Sfas Emes, the differences between the day of Maaseh. The days of the week are not just days of action in a physical sense. I go to work. But the way you serve Hashem is through action. Shabbos is a day when you serve Hashem through closeness to Hashem, through a certain kind of stillness, a quiet stillness within which one communicates with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore the avodah of the different days, during the week the avodah is the avodah of activity, and Shabbos the avodah is one of connection, of rest, of stillness. 2 different kinds of avodah. And therefore says the Sfas Emes, b'yemei ha'maaseh, in the days of action, there's hester. There's a veil, there's a cloak hiding HaKadosh Baruch Hu from us. And we have to work very hard to break through that. Umilchemes ha'yetzer. There is the battle of the Yetzer Hara. That is what takes place during the week. Shabbos, Hashem reveals himself. Shabbos is, it says in Kegavna, in the tefillah that Nusach Sfard says, between Kabbalah Shabbos and Ma'ariv, the little piece of the Zohar over there. It's a day when all Marin Bishin Arkin, all the bad runs away. And it's us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's where we are. So the avodah of the week is the avodah of battling against the Yetzer Hara. Says the Sfas Emes in Parshas Vayeshev, we learn about one of the epic battles between a Jew trying to hang on to his holiness and the Yetzer Hara. It's the battle of Yosef against Eshes Potiphar, the wife of Potiphar, who tries to entice Yosef. Day in, day out, she tries to come to Yosef and to convince him to be with her. Chazal tell us, this isn't just a metaphor. It's the actuality of the battle with the Yetzer Hara. And all the different details that we're taught about the battle between Yosef and Eshes Potiphar are signposts, are guidelines for us to understand how the Yetzer Hara tries to entice us and what we need to do to fight him off. And among the many different things that we're taught, there's a medrash that says, she would change her clothes 3 times a day. The clothes she wore in the morning were not the clothes she wore in the afternoon. The clothes she wore in the afternoon were not the clothes she wore at night. And I assume to say the clothes that she wore the first day were not the clothes she wore the next day. They were different clothes. Why? Because the Yetzer Hara is a very wily character. When we're tempted, when we face battles, when we have to challenge the Yetzer Hara, we have to understand he never comes at us the same way. Of course, if we overcame him, so then he has to try a new tactic. And each part of the day, each part of our life, the Yetzer Hara has different tactics to try to ensnare us. And therefore there are different clothes 3 times a day. Says the Sfas Emes, Valzeh, for those 3 times a day when the Yetzer Hara comes to us. And in the morning, for example, he can try to entice us, stay in bed, don't get up, be lazy. And in the afternoon he entices us by saying, you're so busy, you have so much to do, just forget about everything, sink into your everyday life, all the things that are so important, don't remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And at night, there's a different kind. You work so hard, you accomplish so much, be complacent, don't think you still have to do anything. And then the next day, the same cycle, but from a different point of view. And therefore, says the Sfas Emes, the 3 different tefillos represent these 3 different Yetzer Hara that we have to overcome. And therefore each tefillah, each part of the day needs its own tefillah. Each part of the day needs its own kind of beseeching Hashem, please Hashem, help me overcome that which is challenging me. In terms of the Yetzer Hara, and also in terms of the day. And therefore we need 3 tefillos. Because in the course of the day we go through these 3 different approaches. Arousing ourselves to serve Hashem in the morning, not forgetting Hashem through the day, and now not allowing ourselves to sink into complacentness, into laziness at the end of the day. And therefore we need those 3 tefillos. And those are represented by the korbanos, the different sacrifices of the world, the Beis HaMikdash, and the avos. And that is why we need these 3 different tefillos, that no part of the day should go by without us approaching Hashem. That's one approach. And then there's another approach, another idea. Once again, it doesn't contradict, but gives us another way to understand it. This idea is presented by Rav Elia Laptian, the great mashgiach of the Yeshiva in Kfar Chassidim, who here in Eretz Yisrael so influenced the world of the yeshivas in the late 50s and through the 1960s. And it says Rav Elia Laptian the following idea. Rav Elia Laptian says that when we daven, we have to accomplish something so difficult. We have to take our tefillos and bring them up in front of Hashem. The words which emanate from our mouth down over here need to travel up and up and up and up till they stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by the Kisei HaKavod, by the throne of glory. And we have to, so to speak, figure out a way by which we're able to lift our tefillos so high. The Nefesh HaChaim, he talks about imagining our tefillos, imagining each letter of our tefillah, and imagining going up, 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 all the way through what the Gemara describes in Chagiga, the 7 different levels of Shamayim, and then standing before the Kisei HaKavod, if we can even begin to imagine what that is, the Merkava, the chariot of Hashem, and Hashem accepting our words of tefillah. How do we do that? How can we deign to think that our tefillos go so high? Simple me standing down over here, how do the tefillos go up? So says Rav Elia Laptian, he brings a mashal. The parable that he brings, I'll update it a little bit for nowadays. We all have in our pocket, I would venture to assume, a piece of plastic, silicone, glass, with buttons or a screen. And if you want to speak to somebody on the other side of the globe, from here to Israel to Australia, all you need to do is push a few buttons, tap the screen, and all of a sudden you're communicating with someone on the other side of the world, thousands of miles away. How? It's not me. I'm tapping into a system that was created. Many people, scientists, engineers, winners of the Nobel Prize, technicians, all kinds of technological workers, all joined together to form this system. To the ones who invented and formed and fashioned the phone, to the ones who installed the cell towers in all the different neighborhoods, from there to satellite transmitters, from there to people who work in the space industry, who have orbited satellites around the entire world to blanket the world with these satellites. And then from one satellite to another through space, then down, back into the country that you're calling, through the entire fiber optic network and microwave network in that country, into your friend's pocket thousands of miles away. And all I need to do is touch the screen, push a button, and there I am. When I call, I'm totally unaware of this entire process taking place. It takes place instantaneously. If it takes more than a second, we start to get upset. What's going on? Why am I not connecting? But you're calling someone in Siberia. Doesn't make a difference. The system is there. Says Rav Elia Laptian, that's the same thing. When we say Elokeinu, we call out to Hashem. How is my tefillah supposed to reach so far? So therefore, we add Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. You know what the Avos did when they instituted tefillah? They didn't just say, it's a good thing to start the morning with davening. And Yitzchak didn't say, you know what, it's a good idea in the middle of the afternoon to remind myself of Hashem. And Yaakov said, before I go to sleep, I should think about Hashem also. They did much more. They didn't just bring their tefillah in front of Hashem. They created a pathway. They created a road. They created a system, a network, that if I enter the network, my tefillah will follow along with theirs. Will travel the road that they paved. Will travel the system that they created and get to Hashem. So therefore, each one of them created that system. Each and every one of them created a pathway through which tefillah can go. And therefore, we have the tefillos of Avram that go through his pathway. And the tefillos of Yitzchak will go through his pathway. And and the tefillos of Yaakov go through his way. And each one of the avos created their system. And depending where I am and who I am and what my spiritual level is at that moment, I enter into one of those. And when I say, okay, Avram, the pathway of Avram Avinu was open before me. And Yitzchak and Yaakov. And we're standing before Hashem not as an individual, trying desperately to bring my tefillos to Hashem. Imagine one of us trying to make a system by themselves that would reach across the world and span the globe, connecting everyone to everybody else. I couldn't do it. But if I work with all the people who put the system in place, then I can. And therefore, that's why we daven 3 times a day. And those 3 times a day we mention the avos, in order that our tefillos should connect to Hashem and be able to work.